G'day and welcome to Videodrome Cinema. Here are some interesting and fun facts about the movie Aliens. Okay, so first let's start off with the filming. Fox wanted a sequel right away, but they waited a little bit to find a screenplay that was acceptable. Out of nowhere came James Cameron with his script and his plan for the movie. The studio agreed, but James Cameron said that he didn't want to start photography yet because he wanted to finish Terminator. And it's interesting to note that Fox actually waited for him, which doesn't usually happen with major studios. Sigourney Weaver didn't want to come back for the sequel. She got the script and she liked it, but she was still a little hesitant. They offered her a boatload of money, but that didn't really convince her. And James Cameron said that if Sigourney Weaver doesn't sign on, then he really doesn't want to make the film at all. It was around that time that James Cameron got married, and he was actually on his honeymoon. And one of the producers got the idea for a trick that he would call Schwarzenegger and ask him to join the project. Schwarzenegger's agent told Sigourney Weaver's agent that they were looking elsewhere, causing the actress to run back and sign on for the film. In the original script, there's a bunch of things that would have been different. For instance, the scene at the beginning where an alien bursts out of Ripley, that would have been a lot more bloody. Ripley's daughter would have had a larger role, and Newt would have wanted her to be her mother. Burke's role would have been bigger, and in a later scene, he would have been cocooned and Ripley would have executed him. It's interesting to note that the film's budget was only a little bit bigger than the first one's. It was $18 million, and the box office gross was huge compared to that. They did actually cut back where they could to save money, and they used practical tricks wherever possible. You can't really tell, which is huge, but they only had 6 alien costumes. And for instance, in the beginning when they're sleeping in the capsules, they only had 6 of those as well, and they used mirrors to make the room look huge. Cameron wanted the face hugger to move, to make it more disgusting and creepy and realistic. The way they made this was that from one of his earlier films, Piranha 2, he got the mechanism that moved the fish and put the exoskeleton of the face hugger, that rubber suit, onto that mechanism, making the face hugger able to move. In the scenes where it jumps, they filmed those backwards. One of the most expensive parts of the film was building the Queen. Before he even started filming, Cameron said that he wants the Queen to be able to move. The actual thing that they built when they were filming the last scenes for the film, it needed 16 people to be able to move it the way Cameron wanted her to move. Like the first part, photography was done in the UK. The actual factory where they were shooting was full of asbestos that they had to keep cleaning up so the crew wouldn't get sick. It's interesting to note that this is quite possibly the most famous part for Lance Henriksen, who actually said before taking on this role that if he doesn't get notoriety from this one, that he's quite possibly going to give up acting. It's also interesting to note about him that he actually got food poisoning on set, because in the scene when the Queen rips him apart, he had to have a bunch of milk and yogurt in his mouth to spit up. He ended up swallowing a bunch of it, and it was off, or just that he had to have so much of it that he got food poisoning. I don't know how noticeable it is, but the actual car that they use in the film is one of the ones that drag planes around on the tarmac. You can see the logo for Weyland-Yutani in this film too, and legend has it that Ridley Scott's neighbour was named Weyland-Yutani and that he hated him, but it was actually a producer whose neighbour was named that, and an Asian gentleman, and they really got along. Most of the commandos in the film don't have given names, or at least we don't hear them during the film. During the credits, we can see the actor's given name used as the character's given name. Despite the fact that everybody really liked what James Cameron does, they didn't actually have a test screening for the film, because up until the last minute, James Cameron was still cutting pieces of the film. He got to a point where he was even going to fire the editor, but who pulled a miracle out of his hat and cut the last scene to Cameron's specifications. After that, they went back and cut the entire film again to make it more tension-filled. And that's the version that we can see in the movies, but up until 2 weeks before the actual premiere date, they still didn't have a complete cut film. Back to when James Cameron asked Sigourney Weaver to play in the sequel, she asked for 3 things. She wanted to not have to hold a gun in the film, she wanted to have a sex scene with the alien, and she wanted to die at the end of the film. Cameron never ended up giving her any of these 3 wishes for this film. But in the future, some form or another, all 3 of these actually came true. Okay, so we can still talk a little bit about the different releases of the film. There's a director's cut that's 17 more minutes, and in 1989 they played a longer version on TV. It wasn't 17 minutes longer like the director's cut, but it did have a bunch of new scenes. And then when it came out on Laserdisc, which is virtually impossible to find now, and then they gave out the director's cut on video, and today you can see these on Blu-ray or on the DVD. So these are the interesting and the fun facts that I found for Aliens. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give us a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel so you can get notifications about our new content and come back and visit us soon. Thanks. Bye.